The day Haley, his childhood sweetheart whom he had yearned for years, returned home. He dropped everything at home to go sightseeing with her. It was as if he was determined to make up for all the years of missed time. When she faced me, Haley's expression was arrogant. Did you really think a few years by his side could ever replace me? Grace. Just watch. See how I get him back. I managed a smile, then raised my hand to slip off the wedding ring that had long lost its value. Who would covet the cheap affection of a cheating man? The day Haley returned home, I struggled to drag myself out of bed. I forced myself to ignore my exhaustion and helped Ethan pick out his clothes for the day. I was so utterly exhausted that I couldn't stop yawning as I helped him with his tie. He chuckled, then gently wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. You're this exhausted, you should just get some rest. I adjusted his collar, leaned into him, and playfully hugged him. It's my birthday tonight. Could you have dinner with me? The moment I finished speaking, an unfamiliar number flashed across Ethan's phone. He answered, and a girl's sobbing voice came through the line. Ethan, I'm back. There's something very important I need to. Ethan hung up the phone without hesitation. Meeting my questioning gaze, he leaned in and gave my cheek a light kiss. Don't mind it, it was just a call. There's no point listening to her ramble when I could be thinking about how to spend the evening with you. Despite what he said, he still stood me up that night. I sat in the restaurant and called Ethan. But he didn't answer the phone or reply to my messages. Before, Ethan would always keep me informed if he had to work late, knowing I'd worry. Did something happen today? The more I pondered, the more uneasiness gnawed at me. Just as I was about to head to his office, he called me back. I'm sorry, Grace, I was just tied up. The issues with the project are a bit tricky, and I mess till dealing with them. His voice was a little hoarse, as if it were veiled in a layer of mist. I pushed down the doubt swirling within me and softly asked him, so you won't be able to make it back tonight? Things aren't finished yet, so I probably can't make it back. I sighed, a wave of disappointment washing over me, yet I remained thoughtful. Someone with a demanding schedule, I completely understand. But I do have 2 requests, drink less and come home early. Before I could finish, Ethan impatiently hung up the phone. Immediately after, he sent me a sum of money with a note attached, buy whatever you want. If it's not enough, just let me know. I sent him a couple of sad emojis, then tapped open my social media post. What immediately caught my eye was a recently updated social media post from Haley. There, on white bedsheets, was a photo of a man's well-defined hand. I stared at the wedding ring on the left ring finger in the photo. The tight string in my mind suddenly snapped, a sharp, painful jolt. My hands trembled as I took out my phone and dialed Ethan's number. The video call connected for only a second before he instantly hung up. I clutched my phone tightly, stubbornly dialing his number over and over. After countless dropped video calls, Ethan finally sent a text message. I'm in a meeting, can I call you later? Almost at the same time I received the message, Haley also sent me an address. We're here, do you want to come over? The place was very close to me, at a hospital nearby. Outside the window, a heavy rain had begun to fall, though I hadn't noticed when. The sound of lightning tearing across the long sky jolted my heart with a sudden ache. I took a deep breath, settled the bill, and hailed a taxi to the hospital. When I found Haley's hospital room according to the message, the people inside were talking, so close. I was so close to succeeding. Why did they save me? Why? Through the glass, I saw thick bandages wrapped around her wrist. She lay on the bed, her face pale, crying uncontrollably. Ethan stood by her side, pulling her into a heartbroken embrace. As if holding a precious treasure he had almost lost. Haley huddled in Ethan's arms, clutching at his sleeve. Sobbing, her whole body trembled. I didn't mean to disrupt your life. But I really can't control myself. Please, don't abandon me. You promised you would always be by my side. Ethan's eyes were filled with deep affection, and he gently coaxed her, murmuring, all right, I'll stay with you. Don't be scared, don't be scared. That gentle tone was like coaxing a child. I watched in silence, a heavy dread settling in my stomach, my chest aching so intensely I could barely breathe. Trembling slightly, I took out my phone and dialed Ethan's number. I watched as he first leaned down and lightly kissed Haley's forehead. Only then did he take his phone and step aside, subtly composing himself. When he answered the phone, his tone had already become normal and relaxed. Hey, Grace, I was just at a business event and didn't notice my phone. Calling me now, have you finished shopping? I'll be later, I interrupted him, speaking softly. Ethan, turn around and look. I'm right behind you. The moment the last word left my lips, I saw his spine instantly stiffen, as if a knife had plunged into his back. After a long while, Ethan finally turned around, trembling all over to Grace. What are you doing here? I looked at his thunderstruck expression and smiled gently. You're so terrified. Is it because you've done something to betray me? Ethan's expression was laced with panic, and he hurried to my side, taking my hand. Grace, listen to me, things aren't what you think. I quietly looked at him, saying nothing. Haley has depression, with severe suicidal tendencies. She went abroad back then to seek treatment. An unspeakable sorrow clung to his brow. In that moment, was his anguish truly for Haley's condition, or was he in pain from only now knowing the truth, realizing he had missed out on her all these years? Looking at Ethan, I found myself truly unable to discern. Just then, Haley's fragile voice drifted over. I'm so sorry. Please don't argue because of me. As she spoke, her eyes welled up with tears once more. Ethan, am I causing you trouble? Ethan, who was standing nearby, quickly pulled out a tissue and began to wipe away her tears. His movements were practiced and effortless. When he turned back to look at me, his eyes held a distinct hint of reproach. Grace, you should go back first. A cold wind swept through the window at the end of the corridor. I lowered my gaze, watching the pitiable, tearful Haley. Then I raised my eyes and looked at Ethan. It felt as if something within my heart was slowly freezing over. It wasn't until the early hours 2 days later that Ethan finally returned. His eyes were bloodshot, and the corners were slightly red. Hearing the door close, I raised my reddened eyes to look at him. So, you finally decided to come back? Ethan, however, suddenly lost his temper. He glared into my eyes, his tone sharp and unpleasant. I've already explained it to you. She's sick. Can't you show a little more compassion? See? How ridiculous. I hadn't done anything, yet here I was, being subjected to his accusations. Why are you suddenly getting angry with me? Ethan raised a hand to rub his brows, his tone impatient. I stubbornly looked at him. Important. This is very important to me. The reason you're losing your temper is that you're blaming both yourself and me. You blame yourself for not knowing about her illness sooner, for having misunderstood her and missed out on her for all these years. You resent my presence, which makes it impossible for the two of you to be together, right? I took a deep breath. Tell me, do you still have feelings for her? Ethan remained silent. He didn't deny it. I suddenly burst out laughing, and the more I laughed, the more tears streamed down my face. Ethan, who are you putting on this pathetic display for? Yes, you two were childhood sweethearts, deeply devoted to each other. But don't forget, when you were at your lowest, Haley's family eagerly sent her abroad. I walked up to Ethan, gripping his collar, and hissed, look closely, it's me, it's Grace. I used all my savings, staying by your side as you built everything from nothing to reach your current success. Now that she's back, you're fawning over her like a lovesick puppy. Enough. Ethan's lips thinned into a taut line as he gripped my hand. Don't speak like that. There's nothing going on between her and me. And besides, she only went abroad back then because she was sick. I stared at him with wide eyes, my temples throbbing. So, you admit it, right? You regret not waiting for her to come back, but instead marrying me. Am I right? Ethan fell silent again. I don't know how long passed before I heard his voice. I've already given you the status of Mrs. Ethan. Stop being unreasonable. My vision blurred, as if a thunderbolt had struck directly over my head. A sharp, piercing pain, followed by an overwhelming sorrow swelling within me. It turns out, he really regretted marrying me. As if sensing his loss of composure, Ethan paused. His tone softened. I'm sorry, Grace, I'm just a bit overwhelmed. I lowered my gaze and said softly, what exactly do you want to do? I just want to take care of her for a while. As if realizing the impropriety of his statement, he quickly added, Grace, don't misunderstand. I'm simply doing it out of past affection, nothing more. Perhaps that was the truth. However, the true definition of that affection was up for debate. I could probably understand Ethan's mindset. For all these years, he had harbored a deep resentment over Haley's abandonment of him back then. Now he suddenly knew it was just a misunderstanding. The intensity of his hatred for her was now matched by the severity of the emotional backlash upon learning the truth. The more severe the emotional backlash, the greater his guilt. But this wasn't an excuse for him to treat me this way. Thinking of this, I let out a long breath. Besides, it's because of me, Grace, it's all because of me. She developed depression because she didn't want to go abroad and fought against her family's wishes. As he spoke these words, Ethan's voice even cracked slightly with a hint of a choke. My temples throbbed, aching painfully. I took a steadying breath, clenched my fists, and said, word for word, let's get a divorce. Let's go now. Ethan suddenly stood up, looking at me in disbelief. What did you say? His voice was laced with barely suppressed anger. Grace, what exactly are you trying to pull? I shook my head, barely managing to keep my voice steady. Between two people who love each other, there's never room for a third. Ethan, you know that deep down. Do you truly not harbor even a trace of love for her? After a while, Ethan finally sighed and handed his phone to me. See for yourself, she and I have never crossed the line. I didn't take it, letting out a cold scoff. So what? Does that prove she's not in your heart? Ethan didn't answer. He gripped his phone tightly, his knuckles prominent and white from the strain. After a long moment, his face hardened, and he helped me to my feet. Stop this, Grace. Haley is sick, so I'm just taking care of her more. I closed my eyes, just about to say something. His phone rang, and the voice on the other end was very anxious. Ethan, come quickly, Haley is hurting herself again. Ethan's body stiffened, and he looked at me with a complex expression. I'm going out for a bit. I grabbed Ethan's arm and told him I was coming to the hospital with him. His first reaction was to eye me warily. I pretended not to notice, you know my temper. If you don't let me come, none of us will have an easy time. After several seconds, Ethan finally responded, fine. At the hospital, Haley was curled up in a tiny ball on the hospital bed. Her wrist was bandaged, and she struggled to push herself upright. Ethan, I didn't mean to. As she spoke, her swollen eyes immediately welled up with tears. I really just couldn't control myself. Ethan immediately pulled Haley into his arms, holding her tightly. Haley's small face rested on his shoulder, her eyes closed. Her tears seemed endless. I only have you. She choked, muttering, my parents are furious that I came back to find you, and they said they don't want me anymore. Ethan squeezed her even tighter, his voice rough. It's all right. You still have me. It was as if they had always been perfectly matched, never separated. I stared blankly at this scene. A chill emanating from my heart spread through every limb, every fiber of my being, torturing me slowly. After an indeterminate amount of time, Haley, still sobbing, finally looked at me. Ethan, I want to talk to Grace. Ethan seemed to notice me only then. He opened his mouth, but instead merely leaned down to tuck in her blanket. Then he stood up and walked out, whispering as he passed me, she's emotionally unstable right now. Don't take advantage of her. I froze for a second. Somehow, I suddenly remembered many years ago. I was being pressured into drinking at a business dinner, and Ethan burst in like a hothead, and got into a fight with that boss. When he was pinned to the ground, he was still shouting loudly, while I'm here, don't even think about messing with her. And now, he tells me not to take advantage of another woman. See, I've always had a place in his heart. Haley said this, chin held high, a slight, triumphant smile playing on her lips. Full of pride. Full of gloating. I took a deep breath, controlling my emotions, but what does that matter? His wife is me, not you. Haley's expression faltered for a second, then she managed a quick smile. Do you really think a few years by his side could ever replace me? Grace. Just watch. See how I get him back. The next second, Haley collapsed off the hospital bed with a thud. Oh, I'm sorry, Grace. Her eyes rapidly reddened, and she choked out, it's my fault, I shouldn't have disturbed you too. I looked at her, and she looked at me. We both knew we weren't the central characters in this little drama. So, almost the instant her cries broke the silence, Ethan's figure instantly appeared in the doorway. He stared in shock at Haley, crumpled on the floor, then turned his gaze to me, standing nearby. His voice transformed, Grace, don't be so cruel. Ethan gently gathered Haley into his arms, his movements tender, as if afraid that even a slight shift would break her. When his gaze swung towards me, it sharpened, filled with reproach and accusation. Do you even remember that Haley is a patient right now? The anger and sorrow in my heart slowly settled into a chilling calm. It turns out, disappointment in someone often strikes in an instant. I met Haley's gaze and said softly, all right, I'll be watching. A man who was already tainted. She wants him. Then she can have him. Upon returning home, Ethan sat on the sofa, tilting his head to light a cigarette. The curling smoke blurred his features, and blurred the intensity of our eye contact. It was as if he only now had the courage to speak. As you saw, her condition is very bad right now. Why can't you be a little more understanding of her? Why do you insist on tormenting her? Saying this, he took out a debit card and placed it in front of me. Take this. Buy whatever you want, travel wherever you please. I won't divorce you. Don't bring it up again. I'm merely staying with her for a while. It won't affect our relationship. I listened to Ethan finish, then calmly asked him, more than half of this money was earned by me. Director, isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to try to play the generous patron with money I earned? Even after Ethan's family went bankrupt, the entitled attitude deep within him never truly changed. When dealing with clients, he'd turn surly and walk away if things didn't go precisely his way. I was the one who cleaned up countless messes for him. It's safe to say that without me, Ethan wouldn't be where he is today. I didn't say these words directly, but could understand. If a moment of spiteful satisfaction makes you feel better, then I'll endure it. My tone remained flat. You certainly deserve to endure it. But my calmness inexplicably angered Ethan. He was breathing heavily, glaring at me furiously, and bellowed, Grace, don't push your luck. What are you trying to show off? Are you showing off that everyone at the office only knows you as director? I gave a bitter laugh and called his name, Ethan. He still maintained that furious glare. From when we met at 19 until now, it's been 14 years. In these 14 years, I have never done anything to wrong you. How could you forget the achievements you have now? That I painstakingly helped you build up from nothing? From the first stirrings of love at 19, to the current heart-wrenching disdain for each other. A full 14 years. I did my best in this relationship. I tried hard in this marriage too. But love is like a tug-of-war. I pulled with all my might, but the other end simply let go. And so, I fell, bruised and battered. Since I dared to love, I dared to accept the outcome now. I took a deep breath, suppressing the bitter ache in my heart. Staring intently into Ethan's eyes, I spoke each word with crystal clarity. Ethan, from the moment we met until now, I have loved you without reservation. Now, I truly can't love you any longer. Let's get a divorce. Perhaps he sensed that this time, I wasn't just kidding. Ethan suddenly returned to his former self. He made sure to prepare all 3 meals a day, never missing one. That morning, he had once again prepared breakfast early, all my favorite dishes. Seeing me come downstairs, he gently said to me, Grace, you're awake. Come quickly and have breakfast. His tone was natural and affectionate, as if Haley had never appeared, and as if nothing had ever happened between us. He airily brushed everything aside, deluding himself that things could instantly go back to how they were before. But forgot. Something that is cracked, no matter how meticulously repaired, can never truly return to its original state. Around 9 that evening, Ethan's phone kept ringing relentlessly. He hung up many times, but finally got up and went to the balcony to answer. After he finished the call, he looked agitated and rushed. Grace, Haley's not doing well right now. I waved my hand, interrupting him. You don't need to explain to me, I'm not interested. Ethan's expression soured instantly, and he roared at me furiously. What exactly are you playing at? This is a matter of life and death. No need to debate with me. I genuinely don't care, I reiterated. Ethan violently kicked the coffee table, then pointed a finger at me. I'd like to see how long you can keep up this facade of indifference. I watched him rush out the door, my heart utterly calm. About 20 minutes later, Haley sent me a photo. In the photo, she was leaning against Ethan's shoulder, her eyes closed. And he was holding her hand with a look of deep concern, his wedding ring nowhere to be seen. The photo isn't great, but just take a look. I replied, what exactly is that supposed to represent? Haley sent an emoji, then you just wait and see. The next day when I went downstairs, there was an extra pair of women's slippers in the entryway. One look at the style, and I knew they were Haley's. I walked into the living room and saw Ethan busying himself in the kitchen, and was following closely behind him. Wait a little longer, it'll be ready soon. Haley stuck out her tongue at him, her tone a bit playful. Ethan, am I causing you too much trouble? Ethan smiled indulgently. To me, you're never a burden. Haley smiled and wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. Ethan glanced back and caught sight of me, then pulled her even tighter into his embrace. I put on my coat and walked out the door without a sideways glance. I didn't expect Ethan to chase after me. Grace, aren't you hurting? His voice was inexplicably hoarse, and he asked again, Haley and I, don't you feel even a little bit hurt? I froze for 2 seconds, then suddenly realized. He wanted to make me jealous. So I let out a mirthless laugh. What do I have to be hurt about? All right, stop telling me these pointless things. Go back and take care of Haley. She needs you more. Ethan gripped my wrist, his eyes as cold and sharp as shards of ice. Grace, are you really pushing me away to another woman? This time, I genuinely laughed out loud. Ethan, Mr. Entitled, do I need to remind you? You were the one who personally brought her back to our home. You were the one who insisted on taking care of her. Ethan's anger suddenly deflated, and he said, come back with me. Let's make things work, all right? Haley won't affect our relationship, I promise you. He took my hand, his tone earnest, his eyes just as earnest. But looking at him, I found it nothing short of ridiculous. Your promises have lost all credibility with me. I paused slightly. The only thing we can discuss now is divorce. Fine. Just fine. Absolutely splendid. His attempts at reconciliation failing, Ethan grew agitated. The bloodshot veins in his eyes were alarmingly pronounced. Grace, if you go through with this divorce, you will absolutely regret it. I glanced at Haley behind him, her face alight with smug satisfaction, and said decisively, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Who would even try to keep a two-timing scumbag? The next day when I returned home, I found the door code had been changed. Even my fingerprint access had been deleted. Just as I was about to call someone to help me get in, Haley opened the door and stepped out. Oh, I'm sorry, Grace. Ethan said that there's no longer a place for you in this home. I looked at her, my voice devoid of emotion. The code and fingerprint access, you did all that? Her tone was smug, her smile overtly provocative. He said I could do whatever I wanted with it. What do you think? I sneered, you're clearly unaware of the law. Do I need to remind you? This is my home. You'd better not provoke me. If I get upset and call the police, you'll find yourself spending a few days behind bars. After a moment of silence, Haley suddenly laughed. Do you know what we did last night? Ethan's suit was neatly pressed. You usually ironed it for him, right? It felt so good to touch. And it felt even better when it got wrinkled. Haley tugged at her collar, revealing bite marks on her collarbone. Guess what we've been doing these past 2 days? I struggled to suppress the surge of revulsion in my throat, turning my head to look out into the distance. The melancholic chill of autumn had set in, with falling leaves everywhere. It was as if overnight, the world had been reduced to nothing but desolate ruins. Do you think this is how he shows his love for you? I turned back to gaze into her eyes, and continued, if a man truly loves you, the first thing he'll do is respect you. He wouldn't let you bear a reputation shrouded in shame. And he certainly wouldn't lead you into these immoral acts that defy societal norms and legal principles. And you, not only can't see through this, but you smugly believe it's love. I savored her ashen face, and let out a soft chuckle. Don't you think it's both laughable and tragic? In that moment, Haley's hands clenched tight, her hatred utterly laid bare. Grace, what exactly are you gloating about? If I hadn't gone abroad back then, you wouldn't have even been a factor. I quietly watched her eyes turn red, and leaned in slightly. You're wrong. Even if you hadn't gone abroad back then, he wouldn't have married you. Because back then he was a useless trust fund kid, and you were no different. You only ever wanted to enjoy the good times, and couldn't offer him even an ounce of support. All he ever loved was your superficial beauty. Haley's face contorted, utterly devoid of beauty in that moment. She shrieked at me, utterly enraged, Grace, just you wait. I'll make you see whether he truly loves me or not. Early the next morning, the board of directors called. Director, something's happened, come to the office. When I arrived at the office, a stack of documents was thrown in front of me. Ethan sat at the head of the table, watching me with an unreadable expression, his tone chillingly indifferent. Grace, you've truly disappointed us immensely. How could you jeopardize the office for your selfish desires? I carefully opened the documents. The accounts within appeared to be in order. But upon closer inspection, I discovered numerous irregularities. And it wasn't just the accounts, even the materials used for the products contained significant issues. Such issues, in any company, would be a fatal blow. If true, a simple investigation would be enough to completely ruin me. I carefully read every page, then looked up at Ethan across from me. You want to destroy me that badly? Hearing this, Ethan met my eyes. Haley was abandoned by her family and left with nothing because of me. Grace, You shouldn't use these things to provoke her and upset her. You care about power, but she only cares about me. I understood. He was getting even for Haley. I couldn't help but tug at the corner of my lips, asking mockingly, Ethan, what exactly do you take me for? He paused slightly. Then he sighed, but, she's sick. Yes, she's sick, with severe suicidal tendencies. So whatever she wants to do, we're expected to comply unconditionally. After a long pause, I set the documents aside and said flatly, I didn't create these documents, and I'm not afraid of an investigation. And, I'm serious, let's get a divorce. Ethan regarded me with an utterly cold gaze. Are you only obedient when you have nothing left to lose? Then he shook his head, continuing with a smile, my goal is just to kick you out of the office. As for the authenticity of the documents, as long as the other board members believe them, that's all that matters. I stared at him for a long moment, and tears slowly tracked down my face. I raised a hand to wipe them away, but the tears only flowed faster. Finally, I simply covered my face with my hands and sobbed uncontrollably. Ethan sighed, walked over, and leaned down to hug me. Don't cry, Grace, your crying is breaking my heart. His expression softened, and he stroked my hair. Don't cry. We'll always be all right. But I wasn't crying for him. I was simply consumed by sorrow. Two people who once truly loved each other would eventually turn against each other. Between us, we could never go back. Late at night a day later, Ethan suddenly became a trending topic online. Thorne's CEO Ethan suspected of cheating and forcing his wife to step down. It was a social media post, Twitter, published by an influential blogger in the early hours of the morning. It detailed the story between me, Ethan, and Haley, including how Haley abandoned Ethan after he lost all his family fortune. Also including how I, over the years, helped him write proposals, attracted clients, and helped him make a comeback. And how he fabricated false documents to frame me, to get revenge for Haley. Initially, not many online users believed it. But with the release of photos, videos, and recordings, the entire matter gained increasing credibility. And what ultimately cemented the truth was police summoning him for questioning on suspicion of commercial document forgery. Although soon returned home, the matter was already a firestorm online. When I returned home again, I found the door code had been changed back. Only was at home. His clothes were wrinkled, his expression dejected, and cigarette butts littered the floor around him. Why did you do this? He stubbed out the cigarette in his fingers, and when he looked up at me, the corners of his eyes abruptly reddened. Grace, the company is your life's work too. I leaned down and gently brushed the dust from his suit jacket. Ethan, I've always been vindictive. You tormented me so much, I was definitely going to get my revenge. And aren't you the same? When you framed me to get even for her, you didn't spare a thought for my well-being. Ethan's expression was a bit grim, but I can give you a comfortable life. I took out the already prepared share transfer agreement and placed it in front of him, but I've never been someone financially dependent, needing to rely on you for my livelihood. Sign it. Ethan roared angrily, I'll never sign it, you're dreaming. I took his hand and placed it on my stomach. Here, you have a child. Ethan stared at me blankly for a long moment, emotions swirling in his eyes. Grace. Grace. At one point, I thought he was going to cry. I gave a small smile, finding it bitter even to myself. People who once loved each other so deeply now had to hurt each other. Only wreckage remained. Ethan, I'm giving you two choices. Sign the agreement and I'll keep the child, or we get a divorce. Ethan ultimately chose to sign the agreement. He gripped my hand tightly, his voice hoarse. I haven't been good enough. I've hurt you, but it won't happen again. I knew exactly what he was thinking. He simply believed that as long as I was willing to keep the child, I wouldn't leave him. But he was wrong. I will keep the child, simply because this is my child. I have the ability to raise him alone. I want the child. I want the company too. As for Ethan, whoever wants him can have him. After getting the notarization done with Ethan, I called for a board meeting. And while I was at it, I made copies of all the reports detailing his work errors over the years. From members and shareholders, down to the grassroots employees. Everyone got a copy. Ethan was speechless when he received the documents. He looked at me as if he didn't recognize me. You had planned everything long ago, right? You're not pregnant with my child, you just wanted to trick me into signing? I gave him a distant smile. Having a plan all along is true, and the child is real too. People are all selfish, and I'm no exception. Your foolishness has already threatened the company's interests, so I had no choice but to replace you." He looked at me, his eyes bloodshot. "Do you truly have no feelings left for me at all?" His question was both redundant and absurd. I wasn't looking at him, but in front of all the other directors, I stated, word for word, "Currently, I hold 35% of Thorn shares. Not to mention my abilities are many times superior to the former CEO. You should also consider, does Thorn truly wish to retain a disgraced CEO?" The shareholders exchanged various glances, and the room fell completely silent for a moment. I continued, "In the business world, profit reigns supreme. Rather than constantly worrying about potential scandals, it's better to draw a clear line. This will be more beneficial for Thorn's development. What do you all think?" At these words, the shareholders began to murmur amongst themselves, yet no one offered a rebuttal. Ultimately, I forcefully united with several members of the board of directors and ousted Ethan. I then successfully took his place with a decisive 35% majority in shares. I was no less capable than Ethan in this position. When Holdings was founded, I fought alongside him, even leading him as a true comrade. Similarly, I was the one who knew him best. I knew all his strengths and weaknesses, but he didn't know mine. I had given him this stage. Now, I was merely taking back what was rightfully mine. After that day, Ethan seemed to vanish. It wasn't until a month later he suddenly called me. "Grace, I've agreed to the divorce. But I want to see you, right now. I'm downstairs." When I went downstairs, Ethan was standing under a street lamp. The dim yellow light fell upon him. His figure looked utterly desolate. After a month apart, he had lost a lot of weight. He looked like he'd made an effort to dress up, but the weariness in his eyes was undeniable. On his ring finger, he was still wearing the wedding ring. "Grace, are you doing okay?" I didn't answer directly. "But I'm not doing well." His voice caught in his throat. "I never thought we would actually separate." I said indifferently, "You just thought that because I'd loved you for 14 years, you had me completely under your thumb. That's why you could do whatever you wanted when it came to Haley." Ethan grabbed the hem of my clothes and pleaded, "Grace, I don't want to divorce you. How could you just stop loving me like that?" I found it absurd. Because my love for him hadn't vanished in an instant. Instead, it had slowly, bit by bit, worn away as he chose Haley again and again. So I replied, my words laced with sarcasm, "Wouldn't it be better if you two divorced sooner and got together sooner? I never intended to be with her." He suddenly raised his voice for that one sentence, then it dropped again. "I told you from the start, she's sick. Out of consideration for our past connection, I just wanted to take care of her for a while." I had lost count of how many times he'd brought up Haley's illness. As if because she had depression, everyone had to indulge her unconditionally. I looked at his guilty, pained expression and chuckled softly. "So what? Ethan, do you even understand? I have no obligation to unconditionally take care of her or tolerate her with you." Ethan stared at me in disbelief. His eyes, like a bottomless lake, welled up with raw despair and agony. "Grace, I didn't know. I didn't know you had suffered so much." He raised a hand as if to touch my belly, but then timidly pulled it back. Did we have a child before?" "Yes, we did," I said, forcing a smile. "Because of the first client you offended, I had to clean up your mess. I literally drank 3 bottles of hard liquor to apologize on your behalf, and just like that, the baby was gone. What were you doing at that time? You used the excuse that you were too tired from socializing and went traveling abroad alone. But actually, you were going to see Haley then, weren't you?" Ethan's face went ashen. "You knew all of it?" I laughed aloud. "You're always asking me for another chance. But, I've given you countless chances already." Ethan finally signed the agreement. But he looked at me defiantly. "Grace, I know I'm despicable. But I want to make it up to you, and I want to watch our baby grow up once they're born." Ethan could sometimes be terrifyingly obsessive about certain things. He would hover around me every day. Generally, he wouldn't disturb my life. But every day, he would buy a bouquet of my favorite flowers and leave them by the door. He also bought many baby toys and several sets of baby clothes for different age stages. At first, I ignored him, thinking he would eventually give up. But he was like a persistent nuisance, impossible to shake off. He annoyed me greatly, so I suppressed my temper and said to him, "Ethan, if you like doing things for your own self-gratification, that's your business. But I'm begging you, don't involve me. Do you know why I didn't tell you about the baby until I made you transfer the shares?" Because deep down, I never recognized you as the father of this child. I only wanted to raise a child independently. If you keep pestering me, I won't want this child either. The night wind, mixed with moonlight, blew gently. After a long, long silence, Ethan's voice finally spoke again, thick with a difficult sob. Grace, do you hate me that much? I said nothing, simply turning to walk home. His hoarse voice came from behind me. I don't deserve you. Grace, live well. After that, Ethan never appeared before me again. However, Haley suddenly contacted me. Grace, how could you be so malicious? Ethan is completely consumed with atoning for his sins to you now. He can't even make room for me in his mind. I retorted coldly, what? Is your depression cured now? You, Grace, he and I will definitely be fine. Haley's emotions gradually intensified. I had no interest in enduring her hysterical rage, so I simply hung up the phone. Yet continued to send me videos every day. In the videos, Ethan looked wasted and weathered. He was always holding our old photos, crying and shouting through his tears, calling my name over and over. My heart remained unmoved, and I simply blocked Haley. Another month passed, and I ran into Haley. Her complexion was sallow, and she had lost a significant amount of weight. Upon seeing me, Haley glared at me with hatred. How could you be so heartless? You left him with nothing, how do you expect him to live? I was silent for a long time before I spoke. When you do something wrong, you should first consider the price you'll have to pay. There's nothing in this world that can be gained without paying a price. The same applies to people and to love.